All right, welcome to the Court of Connection. I have Jessica Guerrieri here, and she is the author of Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, a deeply human story about identity, family, and complicated inner lives we often keep hidden. Jessica also has a new novel, Both Can Be True, releasing in May of 2026 this year, a couple of months.
Yeah.
Which explores sisterhood, memory, and the idea that multiple truths can exist at the same time. So, Jessica, welcome to the show. Excited to have you.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. I met Jessica through Shelly, who she just did a podcast with, and I see now why she connected us. I think there's multiple reasons. Obviously, you know, her writing is. I was actually reading your book, Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, recently, and I was like, I love your style of writing. I'm like with you in that experience, or the character in that experience. But then you also have a history of you're a person in recovery, and so am I. So what a cool connect we have here.
Yeah, I love it. Those are my favorite connections to make with people. You know, it's the best.
Yes. Well, welcome to the show. For people meeting you for the first time, how do you describe who you are?
Yeah, so I'm a mom. I have 3 wonderful daughters. They are 12, 10, and 7. And so I always say, like, my higher power has a heck of a sense of humor because I was quite a handful as a young girl, and then I just went on to have 3 of them. So karmic retribution, I suppose. But they teach me so much about myself. And I'm really grateful to be a mom. But I will say what I decided to do when I wrote Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea was write about the version of honesty that I wanted to show of, like, I thought that I was supposed to be this amazing mom. And that was my whole passion, my whole goal in life. You know, I was always the kid with all the cousins on her lap, and like I wanted to babysit early. And then I became a mom, and like all of my patience was gone. I found that, like, it wasn't the thing that I was best at. It pushed me and tried me in different ways that I never could have imagined. And so when I wrote this book, I wanted to show, like, the realities of what it's like to be someone in recovery or an active addiction, while trying to be a mom at the same time, because I didn't feel like we had really good examples of that. And so so, like, I know that's not your question. I'm just like diving right into the book, but really, like, whenever I present myself as being a proud, sober mom, I always like to lead with the fact that, like, I thought I was going to be so great at this motherhood thing, and it turns out I'm really not. I'm so flawed at it, and it pushes me in all these ways. But I think that's part of the journey of it, right? So yes, I am a mom. Yes, I'm an author. But I'm so thrilled, first and foremost, to be sober.
Yes. Yeah, we would not have the life that we have today if we weren't. But gosh, your honesty is so compelling and attractive. And I think, you know, we live in a world where people are constant, like, we're getting the highlight reels of everyone's life on social media. And, you know, it's kind of designed to be that way, but that's not life. And I always really appreciate meeting someone like you who's like willing to say the thing. You know, I myself have been like, am I too selfish to be a parent? What would I would be the parent that turns their head around and is like, you little bitch, you know, and just like,
you be quiet back there.
Yeah. Very human. And so, you know, it's always so relieving to hear somebody speak truthfully about what that experience is like for them. And some people become a parent and they ace it and they're so good at it and that's their life purpose. And some people are, you know, just being a human, having the experience of being a mom and doing their best. And that's real.
Well, and I also don't think that you can know until you're in it. You can have like the the Instagram reel version of it in your head. And it's like, oh, we're going to Disneyland and it's amazing. And it's like, okay, well, if we were going to Disneyland, we can't stand in lines. We don't like crowds of people. That isn't that isn't all those things. That's the fantasy, right? And so what we know about being in recovery and like just I would so much rather be honest about how it truly is versus paint an inaccurate picture, because it it is wonderful, it is beautiful, and it is all the things that people say, but like I needed to hear what other people weren't saying, which is like, oh no, it's okay if it's not the greatest thing that you've ever done in your life, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad mom. It makes you an honest one.
100%. Yes. And that level of honesty gives other people permission, which is so cool. I love that. That's how I live my life today, because I did the whole trying to box it in a, a nice little pretty box with a bow. And part of my journey is being a people pleaser and a chameleon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, aren't all women really, truly.
Yeah.
So nice to not live inside that space anymore. I turned 40 last year, and something about turning 40 and like just being like, oh no, I'm done, like truly caring what other people think in that capacity. And it's okay. Also, being an author too is so bizarre, because it's this job where you're putting an art form out in the world and you're asking other people to receive it. But in doing that, it's incredibly vulnerable, right? And so it's the only career you can have where like your whole job is rated by stars, like literally like, oh, so it's like, oh, 1 star, like your whole piece of your heart is somebody else's, hot garbage essentially. And you're like, oh, okay. And it's just, it's wild, right? And that it to me, it just translated into this idea that I'm like, wow, I very much am okay with how other people perceive me, how other people perceive my art, because I'm still sober. I'm going to continue to still be sober first and foremost. And like, I didn't do this for anybody but myself, right? Like I didn't write this for anybody but myself, and what I needed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Love that. What did little Jessica think her life was going to look like?
So, I was always I was always creative. I'm really tall, so I'm 6'1". I come from a really tall family. And so I was super athletic. And thank God for that, because that was like my outlet for like, I was like the quirky, weird kid, I like was always writing in my journal, and, I had these big angsty feelings and emotions, and like, cut to me having 3 daughters now. And it's just like, it's all feelings all the time. My husband is like, oh, wow, we have so many feelings today. I'm like, yes, we do. In my wildest dreams, I wanted to be an author. And actually I have in my journal, it says, I want to be a writer. I want to be a mother. And I'm both those things. And I wanted to do something creative. I come from a family of English majors and librarians. And so we read books all the time. And I just remember like opening up a book and like seeing a picture of an author and be like, wait a minute, this is like something you can do. Like you can just do this and put this out into the world. And so when I just decided to go for it, I came by it honestly because I was an English major from UC Davis with creative writing as my background, but I had never written like a full novel before. And so I just did what we do in recovery, whereas you act as if, right? Like I pretended that I could do it until I did it, right? You fake it till you make it, like everyone else. And I just put my head down and I thought, if I can be sober, I can do anything. And so I wrote the book during the pandemic, and it got rejected over, I always tell people this, it got rejected over 100 different times via agents, via publishing houses. So I have 100 forms of rejection that were just like, nope, this isn't right. Nope, this won't sell. Nope. And then it did. And not only that, but I got a 2-book deal from a big 5 publishing house, HarperCollins, and they bought both of my books, and I wrote 2 books in 2 years. And I'm doing really well. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you bring up such an amazing point. So many people, myself included, spent most of my life on the outside of the arena and not in the arena because
Right.
of that very thing, right? It's like I couldn't possibly endure rejection, right?
No.
And I just went through this process and made this massive connection where it was like, how did I not see this before? When someone's rejecting you, rejecting whatever your question is, they're not rejecting you.
Right.
They're rejecting what you're offering or what you're asking,
Yeah.
right? And that was such a big turning point for me because I always made it about rejecting Danielle, right? And then it went back to that young little girl that always felt rejected and never felt good enough and blah, blah, blah. And so I would love to hear about your journey moving through being rejected 100 times and what kept you going. And there was obviously some level of certainty that was like, no.
Yeah. So it's so funny that you said on the outside, right? So like whenever I share in recovery meetings, so like I said, I'm 6'1". And so I remember the feeling of rejection when I was like 13, right? And I think I was 5'11" at that time. And I remember being at like 7th grade dances, right? Like 13, 5'11". And like back in like my day when we did dances, it was like there was always a circle, right? And the best dancer was in the middle and they did something amazing. And then they moved to the sort of outside of the inside of the circle, right? And like me being so awkward and not comfortable in myself and made to feel different because, like all the boys came up to, the no boob height, right? And I was constantly being pushed to the outside. And so that's how I felt inside as well, right? Like I just felt like I was on the outside. I was never on the inside. And the only time I ever felt on the inside was when I was drinking. And the second that I found drugs and alcohol, I was like in the inside of the circle and everybody else is around me. And I'm dancing like no one's watching. Except I want everyone watching because I don't even know what I'm doing, right? So we have that kind of like blind, dumb confidence when we're in our addiction. And I'm like, can we channel that into something good? Like, what if we did that? Because I know for a fact that I'm capable of really amazing things. And I put myself in those situations now all the time. I get like sort of endorphin highs if I can. I did Spartans. I did a trifecta where I did 3 Spartans in a year. I ran my first marathon when I turned 40. I love the sensation of feeling powerful in my own body because alcohol made me feel powerless, right? Like it made me feel less than. And so to me, writing books and like going on this journey where other people are telling me no, like fueled me to nothing else, to be like, no, you actually don't, you don't mean no. I will get a yes and it'll be what it's supposed to be because I truly believe in myself. And like, I do that because of my foundation of recovery. Like every single day we have a disease that wants us dead and I'm outliving it. So like, no, you don't get to tell me no. And I don't mean that in like a big ego way of like, you can hate my work. You can. And like, genuinely, that doesn't hurt my feelings. Like if it's not for you, it's not for you. But like, how can I have 3 daughters and not believe in myself? Like I refuse like that. I will never, ever do that. Like they will see me standing up and saying, we can do it. I can do it. You can do it. And I did it.
Let's go. She did it.
So I spoke at a grad school on personal branding, and we were talking about my recovery journey, and we were talking about me selling books and this whole concept and everything. And I was like, but here's the thing, like only you at any moment, one of the rejections could have been it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any moment I could have stepped away. Nobody was holding a gun to my head to be like, you have to publish these books. Oh my gosh, they have to be. And so why in the world would you sell yourself short? You know what I mean? And it's because it hurts to be rejected over and over. Like, I remember towards the end, I gave up on this book. I was like, okay, I have to step away. I'm going to start writing another one. I'm not done with this book, but like maybe it's not my debut. Maybe it's not going to be. And then I just started over and I started writing Both Can Be True. And that was the moment that, we got a call that they wanted to publish my first one. And my agent was like, yeah, make sure you mention your second book that you're now like 50,000 words in because, you just didn't give up. And then on the call, right after, they were like, oh, it's going to be a 2-book deal. So I was like, yeah, if I would have just said, never mind on this, I was supposed to go on to the other one, have it available so they could offer for both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm just like, there's so much power in everything that you said. Like God is just like woven through this whole experience where it's like, girl, you got sober to do what? Live a small life? Absolutely not.
No. Oh no, nothing
not.
about it. No. And I don't want that for myself. I don't want it for my family. I don't want to show. I've chosen to be very public in my recovery. That was part of it in the pandemic. I never put on social media before the pandemic, like in a public setting that I was sober. I didn't celebrate my sober birthdays because my foundation is in Alcoholics Anonymous. And unfortunately, I feel like there's a stigma still tied to addiction as it relates to anonymity, which I want to be sober out loud.
Right.
I'm not representing Alcoholics Anonymous. I believe very strongly in the principles of it. But at the same time, I think the stigma and the shame associated with it keeps people away from knowing that recovery is an option. And so I have no problem being the face of, moms in recovery, right? Like I have no problem with that because I needed that so badly. I walked into my first meeting. I got sober at 29. I was the youngest person by 40 years in that room. And so imagine like if I saw somebody like me that had things that I potentially wanted and felt moved by, that's inspiring. And I want to see that it's possible. And my messaging is like, recovery is possible. Like we are living proof recovery is possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have this belief too, and this is just my belief, that the more public and open you are, the bigger the platform, the bigger the opportunities. Like I just believe because we are being used as a vessel, right? And so I am a firm believer. My whole podcast, everybody that I have on here, I'm like, we're raw, unfiltered. There's no trying to be anything. Like I will tell you anything about all of the shadows of my life. I do not give a shit, because it serves a purpose.
And also it's usually the most vulnerable places that you choose to go. And that's why I write books on it. The darkest places I want to go. So for instance, like one of the themes of my book is like, well, should she have been a mother? Like she did become one, but should she have? And that's something that I had to reckon in my own brain. Right. And that's a horrible thing to think as a mother. And like, my poor children, right? They're going to have to read this and go to therapy one day and be like, oh my God, my mom didn't want to be a mom. Like what? Like, you don't love me? No, it's just me being vulnerable and honest and saying like, it's really hard. And I want to tell you that it's really hard because I thought it was going to be really easy. I thought it was going to be all these things. So like vulnerability breeds vulnerability, right? So like I'm sharing in hopes that other people will want to share. And then that just makes us feel like less alone on this whole crazy planet that we're on.
Yeah. Yes. Do you feel like writing this book helped you gain a deeper understanding of who you are and your relationship to yourself?
Oh, I mean, that's the only reason that I write. That's what to further that connection, to make other people feel less alone, but first and foremost, to profoundly try and understand myself. I I think back on that little girl, right? And I'm writing a third book right now, and we go out on submission next week. And the whole premise is about this concept of how, like, I went through and I read all of my old journals, right? And I have journals starting from 5 years old to when I was 20. And I stopped at 20 because I was too drunk to keep writing, right? I like physically could not write at nighttime. The words would just fall off the page because I was in the process of passing out. And that's the only reason I stopped writing. And I like look back, and like there was so much pain in my writing and so much like confusion and sadness. I was I survived, childhood sexual abuse. And it wasn't until like I went back and started looking into that I realized that that's actually what it was. I started getting like physically ill when I started consuming like the Epstein files and everything that had happened with that. And I like couldn't quite place what was happening. And then because I was writing this third book and like this was the premise of it, I decided to read my own old journals. And that's when I came across that I had survived something when I was 14 by a predator that was in his 20s. And very similar to the age of girls in the Epstein files. And my body like couldn't handle it. I started like vomiting, just like out of nowhere. I couldn't, and it was like my body's reaction to everything that was happening. And like, I was protecting the young girl at the time. And so I decided to write about it. And like, I started doing EMDR therapy and like trauma therapy, and I decided to incorporate it into my book. And I thought, there's no way I'm alone in this, right? Like if you're a child of growing up in the 90s and 2000s, the way that young girls were sexualized, and now that we're coming to realize like intentionally sexualized, via Victoria's Secret, via Abercrombie, however you want to name it. And the way that men were allowed to talk to us. And I had a PE teacher that would check my muscles every day by feeling my legs in front of the whole class every day. And that was how we started the day. And I was 15. And these are the things that like I have in writing. That's like, cause I also want to say, oh no, these things didn't happen. Right. This is my childish mind. I'm gaslighting myself to be like, no, that's not true. And yeah, no, they did. And now I'm a mom to 3 girls, and I'm like mad. I'm mad and going to fight for them. And so ultimately the long answer to that is that it's helped like heal me in ways that writing has healed me in ways I can't even begin to describe. You have to read my books.
Yes. I'm so moved by that. And it's so true. The body keeps the score. It just does not lie. We can't escape it. We can try. Right. We end up alcoholic, or we end up, obese, or we end up broke. Right. Like, but
all kinds of other addictions, right? Like food addiction, sex addiction. You have escapism, right? Like, how do you escape out of your own body to not feel that, right? And like, I always go, no wonder I became an alcoholic. Like, no wonder I became an addict. Like, that was in the stars. No matter what, that was always going to happen. It was in my DNA, no matter what I did. But it was like, well, that makes perfect sense, because how do you check out of those deeply uncomfortable feelings? Yeah.
And as someone in recovery, right, it's we have to have a way to channel our anger or whatever emotion is coming to the surface. And what a beautiful outlet to be able to write, and And the reality is we grew up in a time where women were suppressed, and we're all starting to rise to the occasion here and take back our power. And it's just a beautiful time to be alive, but it's also can be sad.
Yeah.
You know, it can be really sad, and it can evoke a lot of anger, and it can, you know, the gaslighting and all the things that happen is just, wow, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's what you choose to do with it, right? Like, what do we choose? And like you say with your recovery too, like the more open you are about it, the more bigger your platform becomes. And by platform, I just mean like spreading the message, right?
Totally.
Like more people hearing the hope. And that is what I hope for, right? Like the more people that read, the more people that engage, the louder you are and prouder you are about it, the more someone else can on the other side can receive it and say like, oh, I guess it is okay. Like if I'm drinking in a way that is making me scared, I guess it's okay to look at this.
Yeah.
Because like where I was at when I was 29, like it wasn't okay to look at that. It was just like, wait a minute. I think everybody just drinks 3 bottles of wine a night and passes out and like doesn't remember. Isn't that what drinking is? Like these are the questions, right? You just don't know because no one's talking about it.
Right. Absolutely. Was there I know you started writing your first book during the pandemic, but was there how did you come to the storyline? Was there a moment? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it was during the pandemic. I had 3 children under the age of 5. I was a former special education teacher before I became a mom. And so I had like endless patience for other people's kids, right? Like I was like, I have a passion for kids on the autism spectrum. And so that was my background. And when I became pregnant, I knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom if I could, to raise my family. But also I knew I didn't have the capacity to be able to do both, and give all my patience to other people's kids and also my own kids. But when I was writing, I decided to like write, you know, like a version of a mom's blog. Basically, it was called Wit and Spit Up, and it's very like funny. And I did that for like 5 years of just like chronicling all the ways in which I was like, wait a minute, like this is what we all signed up for. Like, okay. And then at the same time in tandem, I was going through recovery. And so I wasn't sharing about my recovery at all in this version, right? It was like, oh, you're a mom, you were a teacher. Like, definitely don't say you were a drunk teacher because nobody's gonna like, you know, respect you. You still live in the same community. Like, don't do that. You know, my kids go to school in the schools that I, you know, was like, right, that I like worked for. And I was like, oh, how do I navigate this? So then the pandemic happened, and all of a sudden there was this way in which everybody could see, whether you're an addict or not, what it feels like to be trapped, what it feels like to be powerless, because we're all stuck in the same, not in the same situation, right? Like money wise and affluence wise, but we know what it feels like to be hopeless, right? And be like, well, what is this? And so I was like, I think I need to write about the relationship between addiction, that feeling, and how we can all now relate in the pandemic, because now all of a sudden everyone has this opportunity to have empathy for people with addiction. Right. So I wrote on it, and I basically came out publicly for the first time saying like, I'm sober, and I have been sober at that time for 6 years. And then it was funny because I don't know if you follow Dax Shepard at all, but he is in recovery as well. Yeah. And in the pandemic, he came out and said that he was using drugs. Right. Yeah. And he went on his podcast. And what was so funny is I wrote a piece for Scary Mommy, and it was called How Dax Shepard is Saving My Sobriety. And they picked it up, and it was completely full of shit, because I was high as hell as I was writing it. And I started using like THC and gummies, and being like, well, this is a loophole. Like, I can do this. Like, it's fine. It's not anything really bad. I'm in California, so like I would just drive through like in my minivan with like my kids in the car. And then it just started getting worse and worse, right? And then I had a minor procedure and they prescribed me pain pills and I was off to the races, right?
Yeah.
And so when I was writing the book, I rewrote this book 1,000 different times, right? The only parts of the book we actually kept are the darkest moments where it's written from Leah's perspective and she's inside her alcoholism. That is actually me inside my own addiction again. In that case, I was, on THC. And you can hear the ache and the agony and the help someone like I'm trapped underwater feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's how this book was born. Was from that place of telling the truth of like, I can't be a good mom and be high. I cannot. But I don't want to be. I don't want to be on drugs anymore. I didn't want to be drunk anymore. I didn't want to be any of those things, but the addiction had gotten me again. And so I had to come out of it. And I had, a come to Jesus moment of I had overdosed on THC tincture, which didn't know you could, but you absolutely can. And I like couldn't breathe. And I thought I had to like pump my own oxygen. And my husband, was trying to help me. And, my brother-in-law had to come over because I was like, I need somebody to watch me and somebody to be with the kids, even though they were sleeping. And I just remember being like, if I get out of this, and I started writing as I was high, if I get out of this alive, addiction has gotten me again, and don't let it get you again. And so then I did what I did. I went back to programs. I did my stuff. I was like, oh, I also identify as an addict. I can't take anything. I find a way to abuse it.
Yeah.
And that is what I wanted to write this book about, is that concept of wanting to mother so badly, but being trapped inside of it and what it actually feels like when you try to do that. And ultimately, it's a story of hope because my story is a story of hope. So
yeah,
that's how it happened.
Man, I cannot wait to finish it. Like I said, I started it and I was captured right away. And I think what you do so magnificently is you really capture what it's like to be living in the ism, not just alcoholism or addiction, but the ism, right? The mind, the selfish and self-centeredness, the ways that we, despite how we want to be or how we want to show up, like we are battling this thing in between our eyeballs that is constantly thinking about me. That's constantly like, how is this affecting me? Da, 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 da. And
right. And you're not allowed to do that in motherhood, right? Because you're supposed to be selfless. You have to be thinking of your kids all the time. And so the problem is that the narrator can be profoundly unlikable. She's lovable, but she's unlikable in her decisions, right?
Sure.
And that's hard pill for people to swallow because they're like, you're so selfish. Like, how could you be so selfish? And what I was really hoping was that somebody could gain the perspective of the empathy of her suffering to see that like she didn't actually want to be this way. I liken it to being like a caged animal at the zoo, and like you're on the inside of the cage and your children are on the outside of the cage, and you don't get to participate in their life. You have to watch it, but you don't get to participate. And that's the sadness of what it feels like to parent in addiction is you're trapped over here and you just want to be over there with them, but something is stopping you. And that's why I wrote the book.
So good. So good. I am just obsessed. So what was your favorite book to write?
Oh man. Okay, so now that I've written 3, I mean, there can't be a favorite. It's like picking a favorite child, right?
Yeah.
That's like at certain point. I love everything that each book has taught me about myself, about my experience. But most of all, the coolest part of this has been the connection to other people And the fact that every single, like my DMs are just people telling me the ways in which they feel seen, or the ways in which they connect, or the ways in which they don't have addiction in them. They don't understand, but they love someone with addiction, and it makes them feel closer. I literally had a 16-year-old girl, my very first book signing, came up to me and said, I just want to tell you, I read your book. My mom died of this disease. She never found recovery. And I'm learning how to forgive her because of your book. And I was just like, okay, I don't know what else to do. Like, I was like, that's it. That like, I won the whole thing. Like every rejection, every time I cried over somebody telling me it's not good, I just had a 16-year-old tell me that she's learning to forgive her mom. So that's every single piece of that. And what I get back, it keeps me sober. It's like a new way of keeping the high of recovery alive, because like I don't get to do any of this if I don't stay sober.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So beautiful. I'm looking forward to not only finishing this book, but also the book coming out in May. And it was captivating reading the title, because I say that to the people I sponsor all the time. Both can be true. All of it gets to be true. That's what I say, right? All of it gets to be true.
Right.
So how did you come to that?
Yeah. So this book, okay, so this one comes out. This is what it looks like. I love the cover. It comes out in May. So how I came to this one was, again, I say that expression all the time. All of my friends say that expression. I think women in general, we learn how to live in contradictions, right? Like you can be both afraid and unafraid. And so I wanted to write about what it looks like for all the ways that women can disappear in plain sight. And how does that happen? It happens in motherhood. It happens in womanhood. It happens in partnerships. It happens, it happens on a Tuesday, right? Like you can be seen, but then completely unseen. And the scariest part is when you lose yourself, right? And so we know that in recovery, obviously, that is where the foundation of this book comes from. But I wanted to write about a woman that had long-term recovery like I did. And then sort of a past trauma comes up, and she's sort of thrown back into the idea that like that was unresolved. And so she starts to explore substances other than alcohol. It's very much my story. And I wanted to show that the way in which she loses herself, but really she was losing herself all along, because she hadn't healed from this piece, like how we have to keep working through. And the fact that recovery is not linear. Like I was so, my ego was so big with my, I got 10 years of sobriety. I got, 6 years of sobriety. I'm like, I got this. And then I was like, well, and I didn't lose it because I relapsed with drugs. I still was sober with alcohol. And like, then I was like, wow, that messaging isn't going to be helpful. Like, I need to be honest. Like, I think it's most helpful if I just share, like, this is how it happened. I genuinely, because of the pandemic, like I was like, well, it's the end of the world. This is the time if we're going to experiment with other things. And so I was like, I bet that's relatable to other women, right? Or to other people. And it doesn't have to be about addiction. It can be about anything. There's two women, they're two sisters. It's a story about sisterhood. And one of the sisters is in long-term recovery. The other one isn't, but she loses herself in her identity of motherhood and in her marriage. She's married to someone who, they're learning in real time, may or may not be somewhere on the spectrum. And so her daughter is newly identified on the spectrum. And she has to be the caretaker for everyone. And so where is she? Like, where does she go in all of that? Right. And I was like, and I think that's also highly relatable because who doesn't also feel that way, where you're like, I have to be everything to everyone. All the plates are in the air. It's the woman's job to take care of everyone, but who takes care of the woman?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So good. I'm on this journey right now. I actually just I left my job of 9 years. I'm creating a coaching business, and that's
Amazing.
like essentially the whole framework is how, men, women, whoever might be high functioning in one area of their life and then completely erase and abandon themselves in these other areas of life, right?
Yeah.
And how do we start to live in alignment in every area of our life? And being in recovery, I've had to go through this weird I've always been somebody who sponsored a lot of women, who was involved in all this stuff, and I lost myself in that identity, right?
Yeah.
We're taught, don't be selfish and self-centered, don't da 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 da, and I misinterpreted that, right? I misunderstood that, and I put everything before me, and
Yeah.
I continued to lose me and pour from an empty cup and wonder why I was fried all the time,
Right. Yep.
And in this chapter of my life, what I am claiming and recognizing is I actually do get to come first. I have to come first.
Mm-hmm.
And self-centeredness is about thinking of myself all the time, not
Right.
being like putting myself first in terms of health and, spirituality and all these things. But when I do that, in turn, I'm a much better teacher. I'm a much better, mentor. I'm a much better human being in the world.
Right.
And I had to
Citizen
move
of the
through it.
world, right.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
had to move through that of like kind of doing it. I don't want to say wrong. It was part of the experience, but it's driven me to really have a passion of like, where are you erasing yourself in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Knowingly or unknowingly, and how can we change that and get you to step back into your power, because we're so much more effective to the world as agents of God when we are in our power.
Absolutely. Well, and then the other piece of my book is that there is an actual physical missing woman that goes missing as well. So there's the thriller element part of it too, because I wanted to show that like that also like it, so that's like that's the realness of it, right? Like a women go missing all the time. Selfishly, during the pandemic, I started to become obsessed with true crime as my like drug of choice, right? Like and I like couldn't understand I would like what it was about it, because at first it was like so disturbing to me. Of course, like it is disturbing. It's horrible, the things that happen.
Yeah.
But then I realized like I needed to start listening to it, because I had been told my whole life, we've been gaslit into saying like, well, bad things don't really happen. It's all fine. Like you're overreacting. It's all the things. And I needed to listen and hear like, oh wait, it almost is always the husband. Oh wait, it always is always the, and not that I'm saying, all men are evil or anything like that. It's the, I needed to come up with this concept of, I'm hearing the things that I know are true and that are true. And I've been told that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to put that all in a book. Basically, anytime I write a book, I want to write it something that I would want to read. And I was like, okay, well, it needs to have these elements in it. But to your point, yeah, the missing woman in the element of, you're doing the very best that you can. You think that you're putting everything into helping others, and then still losing yourself along the way, right? And like that's so easy to do, especially in recovery, where you're like, oh, I've really spread myself too thin in being helpful. It turns out it's actually hurting me.
Yes.
I can't show up for other people. It's the oxygen mask theory, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But it had to be a lived experience. Yeah. This
Yep.
past year
Yep.
was really about,
I'm glad you
yeah.
figured it out, because you can't be of service to other people if you're no good to yourself, right?
No. And this last year really was, I took a step back. I went behind the scenes. I felt really called to do that. I had an ego death around that, because like, who am I without this, being in the center of everything, which is so
course.
funny to say out loud, but
No.
it felt real,
Yeah.
I'm going to be irrelevant. People are going to forget all the things, right?
Oh, you don't need to tell me twice. I'm like, I have to go very closely with my sponsor a lot. I have to talk with another sober woman to be like, oh, but my book is not big enough, or it's not, it's not doing this enough, or it's not on this list, or whatever it is. And it's like, don't they know that it's, all, and I'm like, whoa, like, hold on, again, go back to your primary purpose, which is the girl that came to talk to you in line. That is my primary purpose. Is to connect with her. It's not to see New York Times bestseller next to my name, although that would be cool.
Yeah.
But that has so much more to do with my ego and the fact that I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. And it's hard. It's hard as a person in recovery because we get it wrong, right? Like we love inflating, like we love it when other people are telling us like we're amazing, we're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, this could get really bad for me. So I have to be really in check with it. And it's not easy. Yeah.
It's beautiful. So I love your honesty. I'm like connecting with you. I'm like, we would be friends out there.
I was gonna say, we would. Oh, of course we would. We are now.
We are friends. Yes, I love it. When does your so I know your the next book's coming out in May. When does your third book come out? Any idea?
So I was super lucky. Like I said, I got a 2-book deal with Harper. And so they had the right of first refusal with my third book once I wrote it. And they did some like restructuring. And it was one of those, like the stars aligned where it was like, okay, it's time to move on. Right. Like it's time to go to other places. And like, I've had literally the greatest experience with my team that I've worked with, and I'm continuing to work with them in this upcoming year, obviously with my second book. And I'm sad to be, not sticking with them for the third one. But my agent was like, no, I think it's time like to spread our wings. Like we're going to kind of go on. So what happens with the submission process is my agent will take the book out and she'll put it out to editors in all of the big 5 publishing houses. So like Penguin, Random House, Harper, all of them. And hopefully multiple people will want it at this point. Like it's not my debut. Like I have some clout behind me at this point. Again, the ego, right?
Totally. I mean, it's honest. It's true.
And I do. I have something to offer. And so if that happens, then they'll hopefully take it to auction and then they like fight over you. And then you get to go with the biggest and the best. It's like when multiple people want to buy a house. So it's like, I'm hoping for that, right? Of course, in our like dream world. And then
calling it in.
Scenario, is it doesn't sell. And that is a very real possibility in this market too. But I like with, again, it's I believe, like, I just believe, like, I know it's going to sell. It's just, where's it going to land? And then that's going to be where it's supposed to be, right? Like in the journey, it will unfold the way it's supposed to. So that, unfortunately, the only issue with taking it out, the book industry is so slow. Like I signed my contract for Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea in 2023, and it came out in 2025. So 2 years after my deal. And then the next one a year after that. But that was only because we were already like in the mix. So we're probably talking at least 2028, which sucks because I would love to do a book a year, but I moved too fast, apparently.
That's impressive. I mean, that's books in a matter of several years is like,
it's a lot. It's a lot. Again, it's like, but like I don't do anything halfway and it's for good or bad or anything, right? Like, I didn't have one daughter. I had 3. I didn't do one Spartan. I did a trifecta. Like I will do it to my own detriment sometimes, like how can I win at recovery? Like, no, you can't win at recovery. You just have to do it.
Totally. Yeah.
So I do that with my attitude towards, my career is like, no, I want to keep going. I want to do more, which again, sometimes I have to be like, slow your roll. Like it's not in your timeline. And if ever there was a lesson for that, it's the publishing industry is the lesson for that of like, oh no, they're going to do it in their own timeline.
Yes, yes. I don't know if you know anything about astrology, but there's just I'm like, do you have Virgo, Aries, something like that? Like, do you know
I'm
your astrology?
Sagittarius. December 6th is my birthday. And I don't know a bit. I don't know all of that. I don't follow any of it.
Uh-huh.
I only know like I only know when I connect with people. But what I've found though is I have yet to not connect with another either person in recovery or another person that's an author. And
Mhm.
like the coolest thing is having those two worlds combined because recovery people are the best people, right? Like they're the ones that are like, I'm sorry, do you need a place to live? Do you need to
Yep.
come live with me?
Yep.
I will give you a house.
Yes.
And then book people are just very genuine and sincere as our recovery people, but they're like deep thinkers and they care about relationships and they care about things that matter. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, the fact that I like bring both of those worlds together on a daily basis, I just find myself with the greatest people on the planet. And I'm like,
So
lucky
true.
me.
I know. It's so good. Recovery people we are literally, I mean, when a person gets sober, they are just the most creative, incredible, beautiful, expansive, wonderful people. I know I'm a little biased, but I also think it's true. And
Just sneezing. Don't mind
no,
me.
bless you. Um,
It's
and
so true. So
it
true.
is so true. I just had an experience where I dealt very closely with someone out in the I called normies out in the wild,
Yeah.
and I was I'm telling you, it made me so grateful for my program and being a self-aware person because I was literally watching this person like, wow,
Right.
wow, you're
You wish like everybody had to work a program, right? Like I think it should be mandatory for like the human race. Just like be aware of your own shortcomings, be aware of like your own challenges, and be like, oh yeah, like I don't do this very well. Like I don't handle this very well. It helps to relate to other people, and yeah, when you come across somebody out in the wild, like I say too, and they're like, oh, you've clearly never like really had to be humble.
or like fucking aware of yourself. Like
Or
it's just like,
whatever. I mean, like if you're on like Love is Blind, like you're
yes,
really not self-aware. Like you really have no idea what's going on. It's like if you're a man on that show, like
yes.
where do you come from? Like
Who are you? Where do you come from? And I'm so glad I don't know you. No, I'm kidding.
no, well, yeah, I mean, yes. But yeah, it's so I feel so lucky that connecting with people that have sort of walked that path and then just it's so refreshing.
Yes, absolutely. So, what helps you stay connected to yourself in a world that is constantly pulling us away from who we are?
Yeah, so obviously my children, like first and foremost, like there's nothing more humbling than being a mom, right? Like my kids will be like, mom, like you look horrible, like have you been sleeping? I'm like, no, thank you, you're right, I haven't been sleeping. No, but they remind me, right, to stay in the now, like to
Mhm.
stay in the present, because I hate the cliche of like it goes by so fast. But it's like, no, I like blinked and my oldest is going to junior high next year. And like I taught junior high, like when I was a teacher, and they weren't even a part of the world yet. So besides my children, very much my writing like keeps me here and now and connected. I seriously love, there is no greater compliment than when somebody tells me like I feel seen
Mhm.
because of something you wrote. Like talk about ego, like people quoting me back to me. I'm just like, oh
Mhm.
my God, tell me more. Like, thank you. Oh, like, oh, talk about, I'm just like, no,
Okay,
so like rein it in. I'm like, okay, no, but besides the enormous ego boost of that, it's the like, well, like truly thank you,
Mhm.
because I do think that my gift on earth is to be able to translate like the pained experience
Mhm.
of being a woman in addiction. And like not everybody gets to translate that because they don't make it to the other side. They don't live. And so I treat that as, as important as it sounds, because like, I feel like I've been given this opportunity to do that, and I don't want to take it for granted. I want to connect with other people in that way. It's like the opposite of addiction to me is connection. And so I do that specifically through my books and writing.
I love that. If someone listening today feels lost between who they've been and who they're becoming, what would you want them to know?
Who they've been and who they're becoming. I feel like it's like every day is your shot, right? Like we have today. It's the cliche for a reason of like one day at a time. I very much believe that like there's always this moment to turn it around, right? To like what happens with my kids a lot of the time, and that like I didn't realize is so profoundly healing, is to like own our mistakes in real time. So like I didn't grow up where it was like my parents like apologized to me, right? Like there was no like acknowledgement of they made a misstep in parenting, and that was just the way parenting was done, right? Like they're like the ultimate authority, and they know even when they're wrong. And I don't live that way, right? Like I'm very fallible in front of my kids, and I'll be like, oh my God, I did that so badly. Like, oh my gosh, I told you not to yell, and then I just yelled. And like, I think if there's someone who's out there struggling and saying like, who am I in between? Like you can call yourself out at any time and be like, wow, I'm doing this so badly, but I want to do different. Like I really do. There's the want. And I think sometimes we have to act as if, right? Like I literally wrote an article in 2020. I was like, I'm just going to call myself a writer and see what happens, and see if I can just be a writer. And then I became an author in 2025. Because why not? Like who's saying no? I was the only person saying no. Like that person, you are the only person standing in your way, right?
Yes.
And we'll come up for excuses for anything, right? Like, oh man, I was the queen of it. I was like, well, it's a Tuesday. I can't not drink on a Tuesday. Like,
yes, girl.
That's not it. Like, get out of your own way. And I say this as someone who's looking at herself, right? Like I am guilty of that too. But yeah, I have so much empathy for that person in that space, because yesterday was a different story. Like yesterday was a horrible day for me. And I was like, nope, I hate it. I hate everyone. I'm done. I'm done with this. I mean, I don't know if it was like in Mercury in retrograde or whatever, but everybody I know was like, yesterday was the worst day of my life.
It was a rough day for me. I'll say that.
But here's the difference is a sober me knows that it isn't the end of the world, right? Also drinking and doing drugs will make it worse. Like no question about it. And I don't get to have the life that I have if I decide to use or drink again. And so I know that to be true. But like you can always say like, okay, I need this is the crap day. Like this is whatever, the moment, the whatever it is. And I give that to my kids too. I'm like, oh, it can be bad right now. It's not bad all the time though. And it will, like, there is hope. It will get better. And it's something that I only learned because of recovery, right? Because we know like it can get better. I promise you it will get better.
It can get better day to day, like you're saying,
Absolutely. Day to day. Like, yeah, sometimes hour to hour.
Hour to hour. Yeah, seriously. So what I'm hearing you say is basically allow yourself permission to be human. Like we are on this journey as human beings, spirits in a human body. And we're here to feel. We're here to be messy. We're here to be happy, angry, joyous, all the things. And yeah, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, Jessica. I'm so excited to finish your book. And now that I have an actual in-person connection with you, I'm going to be hearing your voice and seeing your face throughout this experience.
I so appreciate you having me on. Honestly, I'm so grateful for this connection. I feel like yes, I would be thrilled for people to go out and check out my books. Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea is out now. Both Can Be True will be out on May 19th. And if you are an audio person, I have to tell you that our audio team, the characters that we have for our first book, I loved her so much that I asked her to come back and read for a character for my second. But we also have two like powerhouse, like if you're an Audible person, Helen Laser and Rebecca Lohman, who are like huge names in the audio world. And they are going to knock this out of the park. So like if you are an Audible person, because I love audiobooks. Take a chance on buying the Audible because it truly like it's a visual story. And I think they're just going to bring it to life in a way that like makes me so excited. So that's also an option.
Amazing. Well, where can we find you if they want to follow you on social media?
Yeah, please follow me. So Instagram is the best way, and I'm at Jessica Guerrieri author, and that's the same with that's how you find me on my author website too, is at jessicaguerrieriauthor.com. That's the easiest way to find me. I'm always on there. Unfortunately, it's one of those let's sub out one addiction for another.
Yes.
But yeah, so, and then I'm always so grateful when people share, go on Goodreads, 5 stars goes a long way for a new author like me. Yeah, it means a lot. So thank you.
Yes. Well, you have a friend. I am a promoter. So if you're in my circle, I will be promoting you and sharing you. I am a girl's girl all day long.
Well, I hope I can come back. I would love to chat with you again for book 3, or also just like tell you how book 2, how that's going, that experience. Cause I don't think this will be the last time we talk. So
I agree. Absolutely. And you will definitely be back on the show. And then until then, thank you for your time. If you need anything in the promotion world or whatever, like that's one thing I've learned with being a little baby fish in this big sea is people are like, ask people to share your stuff, ask people to send it to 5 people. So I'm sure you've gotten that advice before, but I am always happy to do that. So
yes, I really appreciate that. I have no shame when it comes to asking for help, right? When we're in recovery, you just have to ask for help. This is how I've gotten blurbs from amazing authors. This is how I've gotten, this far. I slide into so many authors' DMs just to be like, I secretly love you, and I'm going to quote you back to you. And I've been doing that forever. And then you come up and you say, hey, can you do me a favor? And more often than not, they say yes. And it's crazy. And you're just like, wow. And yeah, we're all just trying to help each other out on this little spinning thing that we're on.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have connected with you. And we will definitely be seeing you again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.